Hi, everyone. It was the tale of two cities, not the best of times, and likely some of the worst times. The Torah identifies two different cities where most of us might not be interested in living. Both contained populations of sinners. Both catered to the sinner element in town. But while the first might not have even existed, the second definitely did and was established by none other than Moshe Rabbeinu himself. The first, if it did exist, needed to be destroyed altogether with all of its inhabitants and contents. The second was not only not destroyed, it even expanded to include an extra area of 2,000 amos surrounding. What's the difference between the two cities? Why such disparity between their dispositions? And by the way, it would help if we identified both cities. The first city, the Ir Anidachas, is a city where the majority had committed itself to the worship of Avodah Zarah. In strong description in this week's Parsha, the Torah depicts how the city is visited by the elders and the judges and condemned to destruction if found guilty. The entire city and its inhabitants are to be destroyed, and the city cannot ever be rebuilt. It's an extremely harsh condemnation of the city. And yet the Torah tells us the purpose of this punishment was a means for Hashem to, as we state in the Torah, v'nasan lecha rachamim v'richamcha v'hirbecha. It's an opportunity for Hashem to grant you compassion and be compassionate with you and multiply you, which is quite a paradox. How is it that destroying an entire city together with all of its inhabitants, guilty of Avodah Zarah service or not, personally, is a means of mercy and compassion? What's going on? The second city is the Ir Miklat, the city of refuge. Mentioned in the Torah quite a bit in the last few weeks, both at the end of Sefer Bamidbar and at the end of the book of Devarim, the Torah lets us know that if a person kills another inadvertently, he or she runs to the Ir Miklat and survives. And while not exactly an ideal living insofar as the person sentenced to the city cannot freely leave until the death of the Kohen Gadol, there is life for one in the city. He or she is supported spiritually by the fact that the Rebbe, the Torah teacher, joins him or her to study Torah with him. The community of Levium, who are regular inhabitants of the city, this is part of their portion. They're there for him and encourage him. And the mother of the Kohen Gadol regularly provides for his daily provisions and meals. Collective punishment does not exist in the Ir Miklat. It's not destroyed, even though its population contains a large number of people who've been found guilty of at least depraved indifference. Why the different verdicts for the inhabitants of Ir Anidachas on the one hand and Ir Miklat on the other? And know that the two are indeed distinct, because according to the Rambam, like Yerushalayim, an Ir Miklat can never ever be an Ir Anidachas, which should make us also ask, why not? Perhaps the issue comes down to one of protection. You see, the Gemara notes that an Ir Anidachas never existed and never will exist. It only appears in the Torah kidei lidroshu lekabel schar, in order for us to go ahead and engage in Talmud study and get rewarded for it. The Gemara adds that this is consistent with the view of Rabbi Eliezer, who notes that a city with a home with a single mezuzah can also never become an Ir Hanidachas. What does the Gemara mean? What does the Torah want us to glean? The author of the Keren LeDavid, Rabbi Eliezer David Greenwald, the brother of the Arugas Habosem, notes that the power of influence is tremendous over here. He notes that when a person serves Hashem and follows his Torah precepts, it's impossible for him not to be an influence for others to follow suit. And thus, the Keren LeDavid explains, when someone lives in an Ir Anidachas and does something, anything, to bring about a change in the people's understanding, he might promote a Torah life through Torah study. She might be careful to act ethically within the Torah standards despite peer pressure. Or maybe they might just simply put a mezuzah on a door frame where it may otherwise just not be the in thing to do. It will make a difference. And it will prevent the people from losing their status as an Ir Ve'em B'Yisrael, as an outpost city that first and foremost is dedicated to Hashem. Yes, a single action and the single person can make a difference and turn a whole city around from a path of destruction. In fact, the late Lubavitcher Rebbe supposedly stated that if he heard that a city was about to be declared an Ir Hanidachas, he would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and affix a mezuzah to a home in that city. In other words, if were a city to be devoid of any authentic Jewish influence and presence, the Lubavitcher Rebbe would be strict about running to go do something about it. The compassion and mercy of the Ir Hanidachas is in the call to all of us to use our influence to make sure that it never happens. Even one simple mitzvah action, the affixing of a mezuzah, the teaching of Torah, the respect for Talmidei Chachamim and elders, can change the community outlook from bleak to fleek. Perhaps, at least in the homiletical level, this is why an Ir Miklat can never ever be declared an Ir Hanidachas. You see, when a person or persons shows indifference to life, we send them to spend time with the Leviim, who are dedicated wholly and purely to the service of Hashem in all aspects and facets of their lives. The Leviim really respect life, and being with them will likely influence our Rotzeach, our inadvertent murderer, to rethink his understanding and practice towards the sanctity and purpose of life. Being around the right people can positively influence the errant to be convinced of the error of his or her ways. And maybe this is why the words surrounding the concept of Ir Miklat, Ina liyado v'samti lecha, that it wasn't by design that Hashem brought it about, in other words, brought about the unintentional taking of a life, then Hashem will give him or her a place to go. The idea of going to an Ir Miklat. And those words, Ina liyado v'samti lecha, contain within them the letters of the month of Elul, which we bench this coming Shabbos. Elul, like the Ir Miklat, serves as an opportunity to be influenced about the value of what is truly important in a committed life. In the right circumstances, it opens us up to be influenced positively before the Yamim Norayim. Our Parsha opens with and carries throughout a series of contrasts. Behold, which is written in the Re'eh in the singular, I place a bracha and a klala, a blessing and a curse, before you, lifnechem, in the plural. In fact, Klei Yakar picks up on the change in tense, and based on a Gemara source explains that the Torah wanted us to know that our personal actions are not only ours, but they impact the entire world. Rav Asher Weiss Shalita once noted that this is not to be simply understood metaphysically. We need to see that people are watching us and learning for us and learning from us, and how we choose to think, talk, and act. We will have the ability to impact our surroundings, to save cities, and perhaps even to improve the entire world. Wishing you and yours a Shabbat Shalom, and a Shabbat Shalom to all.